All right, it is another Victory Monday in Carolina as the Panthers move to 3-3 on their season. They're at 500 for their first time in nearly 4 years as we bring in a very special guest as we're previewing the Week 7 matchup between the Panthers and the New York Jets. Antwan Staley is the beat reporter with the New York Daily News. Antwan, I know you have your Carolina roots, so we're going to have some fun with this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's good to kind of reconnect with people down there and be with y'all today too, as well.
Absolutely. So I know you covered the team for a few years, 2019, 2021. We were just chatting about that. Not much carryover between then and now in terms of players, in terms of coaching. Obviously, J.J. Jansen, the tried and true long snapper, is still repping based on your memory of the teams, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's that seemed like a lifetime ago. Those years. I mean, the year I started covering the Panthers. They fired Ron Rivera. Then ended up getting a new coach at Perry Field. Then obviously Matt Rule comes in. Then he gets fired. So it's a lot. That seemed like just a million years ago, really.
Right. And I'm new, obviously, to this area too, and I'm still learning the team and the history and everything. But obviously, there's a pretty good feeling right now around this Carolina Panthers team that might not have been, really in play in quite a few years. So it's going to be interesting to see how that continues. I want to start with talking about their last game. They had a pretty impressive win this past weekend against the Cowboys. I mean, it was a shootout. It was pretty back and forth, pretty quality play in both sides, actually. We saw some incredible offense from Dak Prescott once again to George Pickens, some incredible catches, hurdling. We saw some crazy things. Just that final drive from the Panthers to get down and have their rookie kicker, Ryan Fitzgerald, ice this game, winning it. Just seeing that kind of fight out of this Panthers team. Did you have any thoughts on what they looked like on Sunday?
Yeah, I actually was able to watch the game because the Jets had played early on in the morning.
Right.
Being in London, so I did watch a bit of that, and I think it's interesting just the fact that Panthers are still they're showing really life, really after that Patriots loss like a couple of weeks ago. There, you end up having the victory last week, and then now you parlayed that with this, and I thought they ran the ball really well, and I thought they did some things, especially considering the Jets had just played the Cowboys the week
Right.
prior that the Jets were not able to do. They weren't able to really establish the line of scrimmage there. They weren't able, they got a little bit more pressure than the Jets were able to on Dak Prescott, although obviously he's been playing all world. But, I feel like just the grit and this determination of this team really just stood out to me. And I feel like that's something that you can really just tell, and it's starting to carry over with this team. And they really starting to get Dave Canales' message really, going well for them at the moment.
Yeah, it feels like there is starting to be an identity of this team that's forming, especially, yes, that's true, after that Patriots loss. Of course, they were coming off of that shutout win of Atlanta the week before, so that was definitely a jarring step back. Maybe a little bit of a reality check that, hey, we're not going to beat everyone 30-0. But since then, it seems like they've been finding their footing all three fronts. And kind of going back to just how they ended it and kind of were grinding it out, to contrast that, I guess, to what New York's game was. They had a chance. It was a close game, and we saw what happened in London, that 13-11 loss to the Broncos right there.
Yeah, it was a bit of an ugly game.
Yeah.
The Jets couldn't really get anything going offensively. Justin Fields had as many completions as he was sacked on the day too. He had 9 completions that was sacked
No.
9 times there.
Yeah.
Really held the ball really too long there. Also couldn't get really things going in the run game too as well. So it felt like the Jets had opportunities to win the game. Even you look back to before halftime, they had an opportunity to probably get some points before halftime. They let 30 seconds just run off the clock without even snapping the ball.
Yeah.
And then even at the end of the game, Justin Fields gets sacked. They have an opportunity possibly to get in field goal range maybe for a 60-yarder. They decided not to do it and, end up losing it. But that's kind of been the nutshell of the Jets season this year. Just a lot of close losses, but, some optimism, good things to take away. But at the end of the day, it's a results-based business. And right now, they're the only winless team in the NFL.
I mean, sometimes seeing history can be an exciting thing, but for the history that the Jets made of finishing with -10 receiving yards in a game, not just in a quarter, not just the last drive, anything, that was their total offense of -10. I mean, obviously a lot of that's coming from if Justin Fields is getting sacked and he's not able to make these completions. But just talk about what you're seeing on this Jets offense and why there are these struggles at this point.
Well, I think it's a few things. Well, it's a lot of different things. I think one, he's just not playing up to par. Again, holding on to the ball too long. I mean, when part of the sacks were on him. I figure probably five or six of them. The other one with the offensive line was not necessarily protecting very well. Also, the Broncos have one of the best fronts in the NFL and one of the best defenses in general. And they came into the league, they came into the game, the league leading the league in sacks, and they did nothing to take away from that as well. They ended up just harassing Justin Fields in the offense all day, and they were able to, limit the Jets running the rushing attack too as well. So you can't run the ball, you can't throw the ball, then more often than not, you're definitely going to lose. But yeah, Fields has just been really, just that's really been, his season, his season so far, where he's been able to have these decent games there, but also comes back and has games like this, and also against Buffalo where he completed 311 passes for 27 yards
Yeah.
before he ended up going out with a concussion.
Justin's someone who's obviously been around the block in his young NFL career already so far. I mean, there's still that faith in him, but I'm just thinking, like, in contrast to Bryce, who did struggle a lot early in his career, but his team stuck with him, whereas Justin obviously was with the Bears, and he went to Pittsburgh
Yeah.
Steelers, and then now he's in New York. So, like, this is a guy who's kind of gone through it and been around. So do you feel like, I mean, the answer feels obvious, but for a team to have that faith and invest in their player, especially when they're drafting them as highly as these quarterbacks were, and to say, like, we're gonna work these kinks out together and keep the faith and just keep going with one person, I feel like, at least in the Panthers world right now, it seems like it's paying dividends, where Bryce is getting his footing back. There's that belief, there's that established relationship between him and the players, rather than just giving up and moving them to another team.
Yeah, it's continuity there with the Panthers too right now, where Fields has had, I believe this is his fifth different offense and fourth or fifth different offense in 5 years. And, it's hard to have that continuity and also just that, chemistry with your teammates and also your coaches when you're changing them out every single year, whether, your head coach gets fired or your offensive coordinator gets fired or you get traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers, or now in this case, the Jets gave him $30 million guaranteed as well. So now he's learning their new offense on the fly. And really, it's really a 1 year audition for him, because the Jets can release him after the season is over next March and save $11 million. It'll be a little bit of a cap hit, but this is you have 11 games left, really 11-game audition for Justin Fields to prove that he can be one of those quarterbacks that can turn his career around in a different location. Sort of what you saw in Baker Mayfield there, who also was in Carolina. Also Sam Darnold, who was with Baker Mayfield in Carolina at the same time, and the Jets feel like Justin Fields has the tools to do that, but he just hasn't played up to that standard on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and we'll go into a little bit more in terms of coaching stuff, also continuity in that, because that's also what we're seeing with brand new coaching coming in. There's been a carousel in the Jets for quite a few years too, whereas now it's Dave Canales. He's in his third year. At least there's that continuity. Second year, excuse me, and there's a little bit of faith to stick with it and continue on. But we're going to take a quick pause, and we will be right back with more. All right, Antwan. So the Jets are coming off of their London game. I actually want to ask, too, what are your thoughts on, this continued push to bring the NFL to the international level? We're seeing it in a number of different countries at this point, and seemingly the results haven't all been great. Like, there's been some kind of weird results on these international games, but what did you kind of see out of the Jets this past weekend for a London game?
I mean, they've been over there the last 2 years, really. I mean,
Right.
obviously, Woody Johnson, the owner, has some connections with the UK. He was the UK ambassador for 4 years there under President Trump too. So, the Jets love going over to London too as well. They feel like they have somewhat of a fan base over there, not necessarily a big one, but they've been over there enough times in the last decade that they have some interest over there. So, I mean, they do it for soccer. Like, they come over here, they promote soccer over here in the United States there. So, I guess it's our way to promote, our sport over there overseas too as well. Like, either people have to, get on board, or, stop watching the sport in general because it's becoming an international sport too. Like we're seeing the Dolphins are playing in Spain later on this year.
Yeah.
The Rams are going to be playing in Australia, I believe next year too as well. They're going to go back to Mexico City, play there too as well. It's been talks about games in possibly China of all places
Wow.
too as well. So yeah, I mean they're really stretching to be all across the globe there in the United. I mean just around the world. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, people just have to get on board with it. That's just the day and age that we're living in.
The other football is an international sport. But no, I mean, Goodell's even, listened to the idea, and he's even said, hey, you never know, maybe we'll expand into another country too. And I think that idea was with Mexico City for if there were to be maybe a team in another country joining the NFL. Like, does that sound cool to you? What are your thoughts, I guess, on expanding the league into other countries as well?
Uh, Mexico could work because I guess with the time difference and stuff like that. But over in London, I mean, it's even from New
Tough.
York and the East Coast, like it's 5 hours, so that's a big difference too as well. And you have to involve taxes and everything like that too. And how would players want to realistically want to play over there as well? So you have to factor that in too as well. I can see Mexico working, but the UK, I'm still a little bit lukewarm about.
Yeah, imagine you're a Seahawks player and you have to board a plane and get all the way to the UK, and I'm sure that would be a bit of a brutal travel. But as much
Yeah.
as you said that the Jets, enjoyed their time getting to go back to London, which has become almost like a second home for them, the result obviously to continue to be winless on the season. I want to just know if you can give us any insight into the culture in that locker room right now of where people's heads are at, and what is it, more of a level of frustration that you're seeing, or is it another emotion that you can kind of attach to what this team is going through?
Yeah, I think you kind of saw it at the end of the first half yesterday, especially when they refused to run a play with 30 seconds left or before halftime. And, Garrett Wilson, one of the captains and leaders of the team, really voiced his displeasure to Aaron Glenn, basically saying, and to kind of paraphrase it, like, what are they doing? Like get some sense of urgency there. You'll possibly go for it there. You never know how many points you might need at the end of the game. So why not, try to go for something there? Even just throw a Hail Mary to the end zone there. You just never know what might happen. And, Glenn spoke about this. He basically said that, he didn't want to give the Broncos the ball back. It was 4th and 1 there. He was scared that they possibly might have an opportunity to get more points at the half. And, consider the Jets were already struggling to score points. He didn't want to necessarily give them even more heading into the half too as well. But, you gotta play to win. Like that's basically
Right.
what it is. And I think the players are very frustrated that, not only with the results, but also just some of the things that are happening too. And also, just the play, in general with Justin Fields too as well. Like you could just clearly see the frustration and, surprise that they are 0-6 right now.
I mean, that definitely has to do with the play calling, which I think is interesting with the contrast to what the Panthers are going through, where there were some questions and some questionable calls in this last game, too. But this was another example for the Panthers having a pretty gutsy call. We saw a 4th and 4 call at the 40 in the final few minutes of this game, and they threw it to Hunter Renfrow, who hadn't been targeted all game, and he got that first down conversion to continue that drive, which ended up setting up that game-winning field goal. And the prior week, we saw a similar situation with a late 4th down play to Jimmy Horn Jr., who again was in his NFL debut game, and they are doing these calls in a big way because they're trying to put themselves in a position to win. So, do you put that on the play calling, and do you put that on the coaches, I guess, courage to perform in the big moments?
I think I put it as like they don't trust the quarterback. They don't
Yeah.
trust Justin Fields. And, I think that's evident in just the play calling there. They don't even allow him to throw the ball down the field. It's basically, check downs, 5 yards, 10, like maybe 10 yards every now and then, or, 5-2. Like it's just, you see this passing chart there on that Gen stats. It's just so many short passes there. Like you got to be able to stretch the field too as well, especially if you want to run the football effectively like the Jets want to do. I mean, they're one of the league leaders in rushing yards this year, but you can't run the ball effectively when teams are just loading up on the line of scrimmage, putting 8 or 9 guys there because they're not scared. They're not scared of your passing game. You have to have some kind of threat to throw down the field too. You have a dynamic wide receiver in Garrett Wilson, although he still has some questions about whether his injury status this week against the Panthers, but but you do have him like somebody that can stretch the field there, and it has a all pro type of potential. So why
Right.
not use that and utilize that to your advantage?
No, there's some quality players. Brees Hall's another one who's been great throughout his young career as well too. But it's all about, of course, just getting that chemistry and getting that leadership. Which I'm so curious from a Jets perspective, what it's like to see Aaron Rodgers leading his team right now. I'm sure people are pretty upset seeing the success that they're having under him, whereas it was not exactly the same story during his tenure in New York.
Yeah, it was when he got released, it was really split down the middle. Like you had people that really wanted to keep him, but you also had people that understood that, for Aaron Glenn coming in as the first time head coach, he needed to have like his own voice, and he didn't want necessarily having a guy like Aaron Rodgers to kind of, be a shadow over there to an extent. So, I kind of understood it, especially everything that comes with Aaron Rodgers there, Pat McAfee show when he was doing it, all that type of stuff too as well. But you also have to replace him too as well. And now he's a guy that's no matter what stage he is in his career, he's a future Hall of Famer. He's one of
Right.
the best quarterbacks of all time. And now, you got Pittsburgh being one of the best teams in the AFC. Now you got the Jet fans are saying, "Oh well, we should have kept Aaron Rodgers. Like maybe it would have looked like this." But them,
Oh, I think your audio might have just cut out for a second.
I think it did.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's perfect timing, though. We're going to take a quick pause. We're going to get that sorted out, and we will be right back. All right, Panthers on the Plus. Once again, Antwan, thanks again for joining. Definitely a lot to look forward to from the Panthers' perspective as they're heading up to face the Jets this coming weekend because, of course, they're at 500. They're facing a winless team, so there is a little bit of innate optimism that they could be moving to a winning record, which is something that Carolina hasn't had in quite a few years. I want to dive a little bit more into what they did against Dallas this past weekend, and I want to start, of course, with Rico Dowdle because that's been the story of the last couple of weeks. There's a lot that's being made of having both Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle, both of them coming off of 1,000-yard rushing seasons. When they were playing the first couple games together, they weren't really able to get the run game going so well. It was, of course, Chuba is working through an injury right now. So while Rico is the number one, he is exploding in terms of what he's able to do offensively between, his rushing yards and his receiving as well. I mean, he just broke a new franchise record this past weekend with nearly 240 total offensive yards. And the cool thing, obviously, was that A, he did it against his former team, but B, is that he did it one week and then he backed it up by doing it the same week. So from an outsider's perspective, what Rico Dowdle is doing is pretty impressive, huh? Oh,
No, it's not anybody it's not that he's come out of anywhere, but nowhere. But I feel like he's just playing at a very high level right now. We're talking about he's putting up numbers like you expect from like Derrick Henry and some of the best running backs in the league right now. So yeah, to be able to do that and to do it against your former team there. So yeah, I'm curious to see like have that a carryover against the Jets defense that's really has struggled at times this year too. They did play their best game of the season against the Broncos on Sunday there as well. They had a players only meeting early last week too as well ahead of that game. So they hope they can carry that over too as well. But they've had some issues with not only just penalties, but also tackles too as well. They've had trouble wrapping up ball carriers as well. Even to go back to the Dallas game too as well, they had trouble getting their hand on Dak Prescott too as well. They only were able to record one sack against him, and that was basically when he gave up on a play too as well. So yeah, I'm definitely curious to see if Rico and how he plays against the Jets defense that has talent, but has also struggled at times this year.
you take a look at the Lions as an example, and you see that two-headed monster of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, who on any night, both of them are making an insane impact, like nearly a guaranteed touchdown from each of them each game, and they're running that offense through them. Do you think that could be sustainable and possible in Carolina once Chuba is back? Because again, this is a guy who's very good. It's not like anyone's ready to necessarily push him aside just with two good games from Rico Dowdle. It would be great, I think, for Panthers fans to see if they can work as a tandem. But do you find that concept of having two running backs kind of sharing that duty to be sustainable?
I love it. I mean, I don't know why more teams don't do it. You also see Tampa Bay, the Bucks do a little bit of that too, with Rashad White and also Bucky Irvin too as well. So
Right.
yeah, I think it's sustainable too as well. As long as the guys, everybody's on the same page about their role and what that is and entails, and you share the carries too as well. Like especially if somebody gets hot and they get some rhythm there, you just kind of keep that guy in there as long as he continues to make plays. So yeah, I think it's a sustainable model too. For you see it in college there. I think you can see it in the NFL too as well. It just depends on what your foundation and what you want your team to be, especially from a structural standpoint offensively.
And Dave Canales was saying during the preseason and everything, we're a run first offense. He was really reiterating that. So, and in the same vein, it is pretty cool to see like Chuba has been extremely supportive of Rico based on his social media posts and just what he's shared with us in the locker room too, about saying how awesome it is to see his guy do what he's done, but also makes him that much more hungry to work through his injury and get back out on the field. So he's now missed 2 straight games. There's obviously some hope that he will be back when they go up to face the Jets this coming weekend, because at this point, Dave Canales has been saying that Hubbard is day to day. There was some thought maybe he would be playing this past weekend, so it seems like he could be pretty close to his return. But of course, not the only thing on the offense. Bryce, during the preseason and during training camp, there was so much being made of having such a plethora of offensive weapons in that wide receiver room. It didn't exactly pan out like that right away, but you're starting to see a lot of it working itself out now that there's some health back with Xavier Legette after he had a bit of a rocky start to his season and going through an injury. He's becoming more of a reliable target. Jalen Coker is on his way back from return as well. But T-Mac, Tetairoa McMillan, the rookie, I mean, he just had his first 2 touchdowns of his career. What are your impressions of the big wide receiver from Cali?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, T-Mac has been, I thought he was one of the best players in the draft anyway coming out of last year. So I'm not necessarily surprised what his production is. I know, it was a lot of clamoring, especially up here from Jet fans that, they wanted the Jets to take him too, so they can get Gary Wilson some another help on the opposite side.
Right.
But obviously they decided to go, Amon Membu, who's been really good too on the offensive line. He's been one of the few bright spots for the Jets this year. But getting Bryce Young that weapon, especially somebody he can go to, especially in red zone situations, I think that's huge as well. Good for his confidence there, and it seems like now he's starting to get really that chemistry there, not only just with T-Mac, but also some of the other wide receivers that are on that roster.
We have just a few more minutes, so I want to ask you, based on what you see as a point of weakness on the Carolina team, where can this winless Jets team potentially capitalize if they are going to be fighting for their first win of the season?
I think they got to be able to, run the ball effectively too, as well. Get establish that, and then play through that run, go through the run to play through their passing game too, as well with Fields as well. So, I feel like they can use that run to set everything up too, and maybe take some deep shots down the field too, as well. Something that I feel like the Cowboys were doing a little bit at times too, as well. And also maybe scheme up some design runs for Justin Fields too, as well. I don't think the Jets did enough of that yesterday against the Broncos, but I feel like he has enough athleticism where you can pop a big explosive play and maybe get a touchdown out of it too. So yeah, I think those would be the kind of the weaknesses I would kind of look at just heading into the game.
Yeah, obviously the Panthers defense last year had historically poor numbers. It seems like they've taken a step forward. I feel like they, in general, other than a couple crazy George Pickens touchdowns and crazy catches, where it's like, okay, you can't let one guy burn your entire defense. But for the most part, it felt like they were doing a pretty good job, especially, of course, in the run game. I think Dallas finished with 31 total rushing yards in the game. So they did a pretty good job of limiting that. And just prior to that, in the Dolphins, I think they only had about 29 or so, too. So this is a defense that is seemingly on the rise. We say optimistically, of course, knowing that last year's numbers were not exactly, but it seems like they've done a lot in terms of gaining new pieces and really kind of locking in. So we will see how all of that pans out. Antwan, thank you so much for coming on Panthers on the Plus. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so we will see or I guess it's this coming Sunday, 1:00 game. Panthers hoping to move to a winning record above 500 as they are 3-3 on their season, and the New York Jets, who are back at home after their loss in London to the Denver Broncos, they're still looking for their first win of the season, and we will have lots more this whole week leading up to that game.